Okay, so today we're really going to dig deep
Yeah.
into security operations and administration, like,
Yeah.
the foundation of it all.
Exactly.
And, you reached out wanting to understand the core building blocks of this whole field. So that's exactly what we're going to do today.
Absolutely.
We've got a really solid structured outline that covers just about everything from, like ethical considerations and all that to,
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
physical security and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
The goal here is to like extract the most critical concepts so you walk away with a really clear understanding
Right.
of what's actually involved in security operations and administration.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess like maybe a good place to start is with the ethical foundation
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
of security.
Yeah, you can't really build a secure system without first laying down, a strong ethical base.
For sure.
And, adhering to like industry standard codes of ethics, like the one from ISC.
Oh.
That's a well-known cybersecurity organization.
Yeah.
And of course, every organization has its own specific guidelines. It's really all about responsible practice right from the get-go.
Okay. So we've got this ethical foundation,
Yeah.
but how do we actually protect things?
Okay, so we've got to talk about security controls.
Okay.
These are kind of like the tools and techniques that we use to
you go.
actually keep things safe.
Okay.
And they come in 3 main flavors. You've got technical controls,
Okay.
physical controls, and then administrative controls.
Okay. So technical controls are those like things like session timeouts and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So like if you're inactive on a system for a certain amount of time, it just automatically logs you out.
Right.
That's a very common technical control.
Okay.
Then you've got physical controls, and these are the things you can actually like touch and feel.
Right.
So think like man traps.
Yeah.
Those double sets of doors.
Yeah. Like you go through one and
Yeah.
then before the second one opens, the first one closes behind you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Designed to prevent tailgating, someone just like slipping in behind you.
Sneaky.
Exactly. And then, of course, you've got the administrative controls.
Right.
These are kind of like the rules of the road, the policies, procedures,
Right.
guidelines that tell us how to be secure.
So it's not enough to just like have these controls.
No.
We have to make sure they actually work. Right.
Precisely.
You need to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. And that's where compliance comes in.
Okay.
So regular audits and reviews, these are super important
Right.
to verify that our controls are actually effective and that we're actually following all the rules.
Gotcha. So I'm guessing these controls, like they don't all do the same thing.
Oh, no, they definitely serve different purposes.
Okay.
Some of them are deterrent controls, like, a warning sign
Okay.
that tells people not to do something risky.
Okay.
Others are preventative controls, like a firewall
Right.
that actively blocks threats.
Okay.
And then you have detective controls, which help us spot problems that have already occurred.
So like an intrusion detection system.
Exactly, yeah. And then you've got corrective controls, which help us bounce back after something bad has happened. So like restoring data from backups.
Right.
And then sometimes, you can't implement the ideal control for whatever reason. So you use what's called a compensating control,
Okay.
which is kind of an alternative measure that provides a similar level of security,
Okay.
like, extra monitoring or something like that.
Gotcha.
The bottom line is that all of these controls are designed to protect those core security principles.
Like confidentiality
Exactly. Yeah. Keeping data secret.
and integrity
Right. Making sure that the data hasn't been tampered with.
and availability.
Yeah. Making sure that the data is accessible when we need it.
Right. And then there's accountability
Right. Knowing who did what.
and non-repudiation.
Yes. Non-repudiation is a big one.
Yeah.
It basically means that you can't deny that you took an action. So like a digital signature on a document that verifies that you were the one who sent it.
Okay.
Fundamental to all of this are principles like least privilege,
Right.
which means giving people only the access they absolutely need to do their jobs,
Right.
and segregation of duties, which means dividing up tasks so that no one person has too much power.
Right. So one person can't like single-handedly cause a huge disaster.
Exactly. It's all about checks and balances.
So how does all of this tie into managing assets?
Okay, so asset management is all about...
I mean, our hardware, software, and data.
Right, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's about managing those assets throughout their entire life cycle.
Okay.
So from the initial planning stages
Right.
all the way through to secure disposal.
So we need to know what we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to keep track of everything, what we have, where it is, who's responsible for it.
What about licenses?
Oh, licenses are super important too. Yeah,
Okay.
we need to make sure that we're compliant with all the software licensing agreements.
Right.
And then, of course, we need to make sure that our assets are securely implemented and maintained.
And when it's time to get rid of them.
We have to dispose of them securely, too.
Okay, so let's say we need to make changes to our systems.
Oh, yeah. Change management.
Is there a way to do that securely?
Absolutely. So we have this thing called the change management lifecycle.
Okay.
And it's a process that helps us assess any potential security risks before we make any changes.
Okay.
And it also ensures that we maintain a stable and secure configuration.
Okay.
So we're not introducing any new vulnerabilities.
So, like, I guess all of this tech and all these policies and stuff, it can fall apart if we forget about the human element, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, people are often the weakest link in the security chain.
Right.
So security awareness training is absolutely vital.
Yeah, especially around things like phishing
Oh, yeah, phishing is a huge problem.
and social engineering.
Exactly. People can be tricked into giving up sensitive information or clicking on malicious links.
Yeah.
So it's really important to educate users about these threats.
So I guess like the last thing to keep in mind is that this isn't all just about cyberspace.
No, definitely not.
Right.
We also need to think about the physical world. So collaboration with physical security teams
yeah.
is really important.
For things like securing the data center.
Exactly. Yeah, making sure that our physical facilities are secure.
Right.
And managing access badges, who has access to what areas.
Right.
All of that's really important.
So it's really like a more holistic approach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all connected.
So just to kind of sum it all up,
Yeah.
security operations is a mix of different things. We need to be thinking ethically.
Absolutely.
We need to have different types of controls.
Yes, technical, physical, and administrative.
We need to carefully manage our assets.
Yep, throughout their entire life cycle.
And we need to manage change securely.
Yes. And of course, we can't forget about the human element.
Right. And we can't forget about the physical environment.
Exactly. It's all part of the big picture.
Yeah, for sure.
So here's something to think about. How do these ideas about security controls and principles show up in your own life, even if you're not in a security role?
Yeah.
Thinking about these foundations can really change how you see risk and protection of information in all sorts of situations.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind.
That's food for thought.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, this has been another deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.